When my childhood best friend Chloe asked if I wanted to be her boyfriend, I didn't even have to think about it before pushing the idea away. In a life I'd already lived once, my connection to her had been the catalyst for my failure on the college entrance exam, a failure that led to a depth of anxiety and despair from which I chose suicide as the only escape. In this new life, this second chance, she had been flaunting her budding relationship with Ryan, a popular student in our class, right in front of me. In return, I had just received my acceptance letter from Columbia University, a victory I couldn't wait to hold up as a shield against her. "Mark, won't you be with me?" I looked up from my desk and met Chloe's gaze. Her face, with its carefully crafted innocence, sent an involuntary shudder through me as memories flooded my mind. In my previous existence, she had repeatedly broken up with me and then come back, a cycle of emotional turmoil that left me with a crippling anxiety disorder. After the crushing disappointment of failing my exams, I had given up completely and ended my own life. The vortex of those old emotions threatened to pull me under even now, making my head spin. I drew a long, steadying breath, and then without warning my hand shot out and I slapped the girl standing before me. "Chloe, just because you've given up on studying doesn't mean I have—" As soon as the words left my mouth, the quiet classroom erupted in a mix of gasps and laughter. A boy with a permanent sneer on his face looked at me with disdain. "With your grades, what are you even talking about? Chloe is basically professing her love for you, and you're not happy about it? Just graduate, marry her, have some kids, and you can live a life of luxury you could never earn on your own." Immediately, another boy, one who had always been jealous of the attention Chloe gave me, chimed in with a sarcastic tone. "Yeah, with your looks. What are you going to do when someone better-looking catches her eye? You're going to regret this." I squeezed my hands into fists so tightly that my knuckles turned white and audibly cracked. Chloe, holding a hand to her reddened cheek, didn't back down. "Mark, I'll give you some time. Just think about it." I lowered my gaze, a bitter, sarcastic grin touching my lips. For now she was pursuing me, but I knew what was coming. Once Ryan, the transfer student, officially arrived, she would be caught between the two of us. Fortunately for me, there was still a little time before that happened. During our evening self-study session, the homeroom teacher made a sudden announcement about a surprise weekly test. Chloe wasn't in the classroom. The class monitor, looking a bit stressed, tapped on my desk. "Mark, you and Chloe are close, right? Could you go find her and tell her she needs to get back here for the test?" To everyone else in our class, it was obvious that Chloe treated me differently. She was known for her fiery temper, but she never raised her voice at me. If she ever made me angry, she was always the first one to apologize. In her eyes, I was someone special. Facing the monitor, I responded calmly, "Sorry, I have no idea where she is." He looked incredulous. "No way. Doesn't she practically follow you everywhere? Whatever is going on between you two, you can't just ignore a test. The principal is personally supervising this one." I just lowered my head and focused on the practice exam in front of me. It really had nothing to do with me anymore. "Please, don't ever ask me about her again," I said, my voice flat. Halfway through the study hall, Chloe finally strolled in. As she passed my desk, she bumped into it accidentally, causing a pink envelope to slide from her notebook onto the floor. The name Ryan was written on the cover in neat handwriting. I ignored it, diving back into a complex chemistry synthesis problem, scribbling deductions on scrap paper until I finally worked out the solution. A short while later, a furious kick to the desk behind me echoed through the room. Later, someone appeared at the classroom door. Thinking it was the principal, I glanced up, but it was Ryan. He looked toward Chloe, flashed a shy smile, and placed something on the ground just outside the doorway before hurrying away. looking embarrassed. Chloe stood up and walked over. She came back toward me, raising her arm. "Mark, look, I'm hurt." I couldn't be bothered to look up. She tugged at the sleeve of my uniform, her voice pleading. "Are you mad because I got in a fight? I promise it won't happen again. I just can't stand seeing them bully other people." I nearly snapped the pencil I was holding in half. She had the safety net of a privileged background to fall back on. I had nothing. My only goal was to study and change my own fate, and I wanted absolutely nothing to do with her drama. In a surge of anger, I forcefully pushed her hand away. Unexpectedly, she reacted by slamming her own hand into the wall beside me, injuring herself as blood began to well up from the scrapes. The sight startled me. With a cold laugh, she picked up the item Ryan had left at the door and walked away. A few days later, Ryan officially transferred to our class, and the teacher assigned him the empty seat next to Chloe. This sudden arrangement made Chloe jump to her feet, her voice edged with an urgent panic. "Mr. Teacher, I don't need a seatmate." As she spoke, she kept glancing at me, her eyes filled with a strange, unexplainable fear. Ryan, looking uncomfortable, whispered, "But this is the only spot left. I promise I won't be a bother. Please, just let me sit here." Since Chloe was one of the top-performing students, the teacher often granted her special requests. If she had insisted on sitting alone, he likely would have allowed it. She hesitated for a moment, but ultimately relented and accepted the new seating arrangement. From that day on, Ryan stuck to her like glue, becoming a permanent fixture by her side. At first, Chloe would still make a point to stop by my desk to reaffirm her loyalty, but as time passed, she became utterly captivated by Ryan, inevitably falling for him all over again, just as she had in my past life. I watched from a distance as she fell for someone else. This time I was determined to stay out of it completely. All I needed to do was use my time wisely and concentrate on my studies. I thought our connection had finally been severed, but some people just can't seem to stay out of your life. A rumor about Ryan exploded on the school's online confession wall and was also posted on the main bulletin board. It claimed his private life was a mess, that he had a sexually transmitted infection, and that he had undergone surgery that forced him to repeat a year, which was why he had transferred to our school. When I heard about it, I hadn't even made it to class before Chloe grabbed my backpack and dragged me into an empty hallway. With a dark expression on her face, she coolly demanded, "Did you do this?" I shook her hand off my bag. "What is your problem? I couldn't care less about you two." I turned to leave, but she grabbed my arm. The more I tried to pull away, the tighter her grip became. "Mark, apologize to Ryan, and I'll forget this ever happened," she said. "We can go back to how things were. After you make a public apology, I promise there won't be any more trouble. Disgracing a guy's reputation like this is a serious thing. You've really let me down." My stomach suddenly started to churn uncontrollably. I covered my mouth and took a few steps back. "Chloe, you make me sick." As soon as I said it, her expression grew dark. She stepped toward me, deliberately gritting her teeth with each word. "Mark, don't mistake my tolerance for something you can keep pushing. You had better bow your head, apologize, and this will all go away. If you don't, I won't be able to protect you." I just didn't understand it. I had been trying so hard to keep my distance, yet they simply wouldn't leave me alone. "Chloe, I am not going to apologize for something I didn't do," she snapped back. "You'll regret it, Mark." I quickly found out what she meant by regret. My scholarship was taken away. Someone had informed the school leadership that I had a bad character and was not worthy of the financial aid. I was just an ordinary student who had come from a small town to study here. My parents worked in another city, and every semester, I depended on that scholarship to survive. The unexpected news left me shaking. After the class representative read the new scholarship list aloud, he looked at me cautiously. "Mark, are you all right? Maybe you should talk to the homeroom teacher." It was as if I had just woken up from a nightmare. I stumbled toward the faculty office. The homeroom teacher was at his desk, marking papers. I stood in front of him for a long time before he finally looked up. "Mark, if you're here about the scholarship, there's no point. The scholarship was initially given to you because of your family's situation, but it's also based on grades. If you can't manage your own affairs, don't come to me. If you score in the top 3 of the class, you can earn it back. Fair and square. Who could question you then? Don't blame others if you don't even try." In that moment, I felt completely desolate, as if every sound around me had faded away. I don't remember how I made it back to the classroom, but I must have looked awful. The feeling of helplessness was so overwhelming that I nearly collapsed onto the floor. Since being reborn, I've had one single-minded goal. I must get into a top university. Subconsciously, I knew it was crucial for me. If I missed this chance, I would regret it for the rest of my life. My grades weren't great, and if I had to split my attention by working a part-time job just to make a living, it might crush my dreams entirely. Despair hung over me like a heavy cloud, making it hard to breathe. "Mark." Chloe's voice was raspy. "Giving up? Are you ready to apologize?" I hung my head, unable to speak. She looked at my reddened eyes and smirked. "If you had just listened to me earlier, all of this could have been avoided." Her words cut into me like a knife, draining what little color was left from my face. But I desperately needed that scholarship. In a low voice, I begged, "Tell me, what do I have to do for you to leave me alone?" Her eyes were cold, lacking any warmth as she said the single word, "Apologize." My mind was a complete mess, barely able to function. For some people, just managing to live is a massive challenge. I bit my lip, forcing the words out. "Fine, I apologize." I followed her to where Ryan was standing, swallowed my pride, and said, "Sorry. I was jealous and I did the wrong thing. I won't do it again. Please forgive me." As I bowed my head, I felt my dignity shatter into a million pieces. Chloe seemed to feel a pang of guilt seeing me so meek. Before she could say anything, I continued, "Is this apology adequate? Do I need to get on my knees?" Ryan looked deeply wronged. "Mark, I know you used to be close with Chloe, but you have to stop this now." Chloe quickly turned to him, reassuring him. "Come on, Ryan, just forgive him." While they were distracted, I gathered what little dignity I had left and quietly walked away. If my grades were good enough, maybe I could have avoided this humiliation. In the end, this was partly my own fault. I was not willing to endure this again. With no one to shield me, I would have to learn to be strong on my own. With no one showing me love, I would have to learn to love myself. While Chloe and Ryan were flaunting their romance, I was digging deep into my textbooks, studying harder than ever, determined to erase the embarrassment of my past with every improved exam score. When the monthly test results were released, I was thrilled to see that I had jumped up about 12 spots in the class rankings. Even in the subjects I had habitually failed before, I managed to pass. That moment filled me with an unparalleled sense of satisfaction. Though the progress wasn't massive, I had finally recaptured my focus on learning. Looking back to when I first arrived from my small town to this top-tier city high school, my grades had plummeted from the top of my class to the very bottom. I was plagued by panic and self-doubt. My once proud identity seemed to have vanished overnight. The constant mocking and ridicule from my classmates made it even harder to concentrate on my studies. Back then, Chloe had become my emotional support, but I had foolishly shifted my focus from academics to romance, which was a huge mistake. When the grades were posted, Chloe looked visibly upset, as hers had taken a nosedive. In contrast, Ryan remained comfortably in the top 3. He patted her on the shoulder, comforting her. "Don't worry, it's just a small blip, see? No matter how much your childhood buddy burns the midnight oil, he can't match the easy success you have." With a smirk, Ryan added, "After all, you can't force talent." Then he offered, "Chin up. Let's go unwind a bit. An old friend of mine is in town, and I'll introduce you. It could be good for your future prospects." Chloe visibly relaxed, affectionately running her fingers through Ryan's hair and whispering, "I'm so glad I have you." Meanwhile, I was still drowning in a sea of practice papers, tearing through 4 different sets in a single evening. Chloe and Ryan wore their love like a badge of pride. They would share dramatic kisses in the rain, openly defy teachers just to cut class together, exchange love notes throughout the day, and run the 800-meter race hand in hand during PE class, acting as if their classmates were just background characters in their personal love story. They only got away with this for a few days before the homeroom teacher caught on to their early romance due to their overly affectionate behavior. But the teacher just called them in for a brief chat and didn't delve too deep into it. After all, when 2 of the highest-ranking students in the grade start dating, the teacher simply asked them not to let it affect their academic performance, and then turned a blind eye. Troublemakers and top students certainly received different kinds of treatment. As I was buried in my seat, working furiously on a test paper, Chloe suddenly marched up to me. The look in her eyes felt like she was out for blood. "Mark, why can't you learn? Why do you keep pulling these childish stunts?" she interrogated. I was completely clueless about what she was talking about. Before I could defend myself, she furrowed her brows and said, "I admit, it was wrong of me to lose interest, and I didn't keep the promise we made when we were kids. Last time, I even had to talk Ryan out of getting back at you. He's so innocent and kind, but why are you sneaking around telling on us?" The entire class turned to give me looks of contempt and disdain after hearing that. Honestly, knowing her felt like the unluckiest thing that had ever happened to me. In this life, the shadow she had cast over my last one still hadn't completely disappeared. My subconscious instinct was to avoid her, but then I remembered that my scholarship for this semester had already been deposited based on my recent progress. I should be able to earn it on my own next semester. Suddenly, I wasn't scared anymore. I snapped back at her, "Chloe, stop losing it over nothing." She angrily retorted, "Mark, are you still playing innocent? At the last parent-teacher meeting, a lot of our classmates saw you talking to Ryan's mom for a long time. If it wasn't you, then who was it?" It turned out Ryan did have someone looking out for him. His mother was incredibly strict and had been holding him accountable for his relationship with Chloe for a while now. My anger flared up instantly, my hands tingled, and it felt like my chest was about to explode. It had been the same in my past life. Chloe constantly siding with Ryan because of the ambiguous things he would say. They would go to the library together without me, saying it was too hard for me to keep up with their level of study. The few times we would all hang out, Ryan would tag along, and they would be laughing together while I felt like a third wheel. I was so tormented that I wanted to leave, but Chloe would accuse me of overthinking things and caring too much. Then, she would suddenly be nice to me again. She wouldn't let me go, all while being inseparable from Ryan. I was trembling with rage, my anger roaring like a wildfire within me. "Chloe, I couldn't care less about you two." That day, it was his mom who stopped me and started asking me questions out of the blue. "You two flaunt your relationship so much, the only thing left to do is announce it over the principal's intercom. I'd rather not have to call 911 if you two collapsed from exhaustion in front of me. I'm not wasting my time tattling on 2 drama queens who are disturbing my studies." I got up and gave her a slap across the face. "Chloe, if you disturb me again, I'll slap you again with everything I've got. Who do you think you are? Why should my world revolve around you? Am I supposed to just accept your affection because you feel like giving it? You act like you're made of gold or something. I must have been doomed from the start for ever knowing you. You think you're so much better now because you have money? Weren't you living in that dingy little alley back then? And when those kids used to bully you, who was it that took you in?" Chloe was stunned silent by the slap. She became quiet. Her story was complicated. She had been deliberately abandoned by her stepmother as a child. When she was roaming the streets near my place, it was me who had taken her in out of kindness. My family wasn't wealthy, but we never let her go hungry. When her family eventually took her back, she had promised to return and find me. That little girl who said, "Mark, wait for me till I grow up," had now become this person. It was my fault. Once I was all she could see, but now she looked at me as if I were some kind of villain. Getting close to final exams, Chloe skipped class to attend a street racing event. Unfortunately, as a novice, she lost control of her car on a sharp bend, crashed into a barrier post, and was rushed to the hospital. The birthday surprise she had been planning for Ryan went up in smoke, almost turning into a tragedy. Chloe came out of the accident with one broken arm and one broken leg. I shouldn't have known any of this, but one of Ryan's admirers made it a point to brag in front of me about how much Chloe loved him. I wasn't bothered. I just picked up my workbook and found a quiet corner in the library to keep studying. Over the next 2 months, I systematically reviewed everything I had learned in high school. By the end of it, I could consistently manage a 60% accuracy rate on a full practice test. Meanwhile, my phone was blowing up with text messages from Chloe. She wanted me to visit her in the hospital and said she missed the meat porridge I used to make. I quietly blocked her number. On my way home one evening, I caught a glimpse of a figure lurking in the shadows. It was Chloe, struggling on crutches, almost falling over because of her haste to catch up to me. I looked on, my face expressionless. With enormous effort, she stumbled breathlessly over to me, trying to steady her voice even though she was all choked up. "Mark, why didn't you come see me in the hospital? I almost died, you know. When the car crashed with blood dripping down my face, I remembered those days when we were living together in that alley." I listened quietly, but not a single emotion stirred within me. I had come to realize the truth. The person she loved the most was herself. Meeting some people isn't fate, it's a calamity. Chloe was my calamity. Leaving her behind made my grades get better and my future become clearer. She gazed at me intently, a trace of hope and pleading mixed with her despair. "I'll break up with him. So, can we make up, please?" I tugged at the corner of my mouth. "No, I don't want to. I didn't want it then, I don't want it now, and I definitely won't want it in the future." Chloe's fingers trembled slightly. Her gaze dropped dejectedly, her eyelashes lightly trembling. Her pitiful look didn't move me at all. I was hoping she would leave soon so I could rush home and get in some more reps on those practice problems. Every problem I solved gave me a sense of fulfillment, whereas one more word with Chloe felt like a waste of precious time. She shot me one last, searching look, finally muttering, "Mark, I was in the wrong." Just then, Ryan appeared, sneaking up from behind Chloe. He eyed me as if he were trying to see right through me. I couldn't figure out why he was so focused on me now, always giving me those unnerving glares. I carefully avoided any contact with him, but the peace lasted for only a few days before something else happened. The vice class president, with tears in her voice, announced that the money the teacher had asked her to keep for buying new workbooks was missing. Just then, a classmate mentioned casually, "During gym class, I saw Mark go back to the classroom." Instantly, everyone's eyes were on me. "How can you just ask him and expect him to admit it? You have to tell the teacher. If he denies it, then he's got nothing to stand on," someone piped up. Right. We can have students with bad grades in our class, but we can't tolerate theft," another voice chimed in. Ryan, resting his chin on his palm, said with a hint of sarcasm, "Mark, even if it's not a lot of money, you can't just steal it. If you've already spent it, just apologize to everyone. I know your family is struggling, and I can help cover the cost, but you need to give the class an explanation." Chloe tried to stand up on her crutches to speak, but Ryan silenced her with a sharp look. She lowered her head. Maybe she thought that when I was backed into a corner, she could step in and save the day, and then I would forgive her for everything, and they could make things right again. The homeroom teacher walked in from outside. He glanced around and asked, "What are you all doing gathered here? What's going on?" After hearing what had happened, he frowned. "Some people in this class don't know the meaning of shame. There's a camera in this classroom, you know? Don't you have any self-respect?" Suddenly, the teacher threw a piece of chalk at me, hitting me on the head. He was clearly furious, yelling, "Can't you tell I'm talking about you? Teaching a student like you is such a disgrace." I gave a slight smile. "It wasn't me. Check the cameras." The teacher's voice became even sharper. "The money was still there before gym class. Only you came back to the classroom. The evidence is right here, so what are you denying?" I suddenly flipped my desk over. "Teacher, there's a camera. Go check it if you want to catch someone. I'm not accepting these baseless accusations." The teacher's anger reached its peak. "Is it that hard to admit you're wrong? Or are you flipping a desk at me? Do you think this is your house?" No matter what I did, he could always find fault with it. To people who dislike me, even breathing is a mistake. I looked directly at him. "Then call the cops on me. Are poor students always the scapegoats? I've already texted the police with my smartwatch. If I don't get a public apology from the entire school, I'll block the principal's office every single day. And if that doesn't work, I'll hang myself right in front of him. You said I'm ill-mannered? I'll show you what true ill manners look like." The teacher's face finally showed a flicker of panic. I rushed straight to the edge of the 4th-floor balcony. "I'll wait here for the police to clear my name." The teacher snapped back to reality and took a step forward, shouting, "Mark, calm down. What are you trying to do?" "I don't accept slander," I shouted back, my voice filled with exasperation. Chloe watched me perched precariously on the edge of the balcony, feeling her heart sink. Then, a sharp pain and overwhelming confusion washed over her. With red-rimmed eyes and a hoarse voice, she pleaded, "Mark, it's too dangerous there. Come down. I believe you. You didn't take it. Don't be afraid. I'll take all the responsibility for this," she added urgently. But I just gave her a cold look filled with disdain. Chloe froze, as if a cold wind had penetrated her collar, chilling her to the bone. Hearing the commotion, all the teachers on the 4th floor rushed over. Even the usually slow-moving school principal made his way to me as fast as he could. In the end, it was the timely arrival of the police that convinced me to return to safety. The school leaders and the police reviewed the surveillance footage together. The footage showed a figure quietly entering the classroom, heading straight to the deputy class president's desk, casually rummaging through it, and then taking out a bulky envelope. That person turned out to be Ryan. Once the truth was revealed, the teacher tried to defend himself, saying, "This is just a misunderstanding among classmates, and I didn't handle it well. I was just too anxious." I glanced hopelessly at the police officers, then rolled my eyes back and allowed myself to fall unconscious. Screams erupted from the crowd around me. When I woke up again, I was lying in a hospital ward. The principal, running a hand through his thinning hair, said to me, "Your homeroom teacher has already been fired. As for Ryan, he has faced disciplinary action from the school. Kid, this is the best possible outcome. Don't be too stubborn. The school has also arranged for you to receive the highest scholarship as compensation." He comforted me, and listening to him, I pressed my lips together. This had gone better than I expected, but I still felt a sense of powerlessness. Being rich and being poor really are two different worlds. If I hadn't made such a big deal about it, Ryan's family could have just thrown some money at the school to make it all go away. Luckily, I had won this ridiculous ordeal. Back at school, I thought I would still have to face Ryan, but I learned that both he and Chloe had transferred to another school. The night before she transferred, Chloe had been waiting for me downstairs at my apartment building. She said she had a lot she wanted to tell me. I peeked at her lonely figure standing in the cold wind through my window, and then closed the curtains. She might have had the energy to talk, but I had no interest in listening. Now, even looking at her made me feel sick. It was hard to believe I had once thought of her as my life's savior. That night, I slept soundly. The next morning, as I was getting ready for school, I found a letter stuck in my door. It was from Chloe. She apologized to me and mentioned that Ryan was mentally unstable now because of a scar on his face, but she told me not to worry. She promised that Ryan wouldn't hurt me again. I skimmed over it, then tore the letter into small pieces and tossed it aside. She wanted to climb the social ladder but stayed with Ryan under the guise of protecting me. How utterly absurd. The troublesome people were finally out of my life, and I focused all my energy on the upcoming exams. One practice paper after another filled my daily routine. I got lost in the fun of solving difficult problems, and those red check marks next to my answers were the greatest validation of my efforts. My grades steadily improved, and I gradually became known as a top student. Teachers from every subject praised me. The chemistry teacher patted me on the shoulder, encouraging me, "Keep this up, and getting into a top university won't be a problem. If you have higher goals, you should start working on recent year's national exams to get a feel for it." Feeling motivated, I nodded enthusiastically. Later, because of my outstanding performance that year, the head of a more prestigious high school approached me with an offer. Just as we were talking, the principal hurried over. The principal looked at me with eyes full of reluctance, but in the end, I agreed to transfer. I was really happy at the new school. The teachers there were genuinely invested in nurturing top students, and all my classmates were working incredibly hard, getting the most out of every single minute. This atmosphere kept pushing me to work even harder. At the 100-day pledge conference before the final exams, I was even lucky enough to be chosen to speak as an outstanding student representative. It felt like a promising future was enthusiastically waving at me. The next time I heard anything about Chloe was when it was almost time for the exams. I heard that Ryan didn't plan to take the exam and wanted to study abroad instead, hoping Chloe would go with him. But Chloe wanted to take the exam, and it caused a fierce argument between them. Ryan had even hidden Chloe's exam admission ticket. I don't know if Chloe ever managed to take the exam in the end. As for my college entrance exam, everything went really smoothly. I was pretty confident about all the questions I answered. If all went well, getting into Columbia University shouldn't be a problem. In the moment before checking my score online, I felt incredibly excited. 709 points. The moment I realized all my hard work had paid off, tears streamed down my face. Finally, everything I had put in was rewarded. My life wasn't going to be like it was in the past. I had turned the tables. That's when I realized I held the power over my own destiny. At that moment, a call from an unknown number interrupted my thoughts. The person on the other end hesitated before speaking. Just as I was about to hang up, I heard Chloe's voice. "Mark, which school are you going to? I broke up with Ryan. I scored 556. Wherever you go, I'll go with you. Don't feel pressured. Even if it means I have to work, I'm willing." She wanted to keep talking, but I interrupted her harshly. "If you want to work, go do it yourself. Chloe, I'm heading to Columbia University. Your score isn't even close. Stop dreaming." I continued. "While you were enjoying dating, skipping class, and the thrill of speeding, I was studying hard. Now, I've left you far behind." I heard sobbing on the other end. Chloe pleaded, "Mark, can't you forgive me this one time? Please give me another chance. My stepmom just had another child. I just wanted to have some kind of edge over her. Did I really do something so wrong? I don't even know how things turned out like this. If you hadn't messed up my life, I wouldn't have failed the exam. I truly regret it. I shouldn't have been with her. I could have done better on the exam, and if not, I could have retaken it and gotten into Columbia next year." My voice was cold. "No, I won't forgive you. Ever, Chloe. If you still have any memory of our childhood friendship, don't come looking for me again. There shouldn't be any stains like this in my new life." With that, I hung up the phone, breathing a deep sigh of relief. When Columbia University's acceptance letter arrived in the mail, it felt as if a cold announcement from a distant time echoed in my ears. A voice that wasn't my own seemed to declare from within my mind that I had successfully completed the difficult task of changing my fate. This sudden internal declaration filled my head with a buzzing noise. The voice confirmed that all the data was accurate, and, as a reward, precious memory fragments were about to be released. The mysterious voice echoed in my mind. Lost pieces of memory are slowly unlocking. The sound of subtle and crisp breaking fragments filled my ears, followed by a flood of past images that rushed at me like a tidal wave, catching me completely off guard. The scenes before me flashed quickly, each one carrying a past I didn't want to face. I collapsed to the ground, my face pale as paper, and my lips quivering as I muttered about my inner helplessness. Those strange abnormalities in my life, things I had deliberately forgotten, now made it hard for me to breathe. Why was I always so alone? Why were my family's figures so blurred in my life, even absent during my most important moments? The answer was cruel and heartbreaking. I had already lost them. Tears, like broken strings of beads, rolled down my cheeks and hit the ground, turning into little flowers of sorrow. I couldn't hold it back any longer and cried out in pain, my voice filled with despair and grief as I recalled that sealed memory. My parents had been working out of town, and one afternoon, they encountered a villain planning a revenge attack on society. The villain's car was about to crash into a group of kindergarten children after school. In that critical moment, my parents didn't hesitate to crash their motorcycle into the front of the vehicle, stopping the attack but dying on the spot. Losing my parents had made me timid and fragile. After failing my college exam in my past life, my only remaining mental pillar, my grandma, also passed away from an illness shortly after. I felt abandoned by the world at that time, and had chosen to end my life in despair. The mysterious system had made a deal with me, taking my accrued virtue in exchange for my rebirth. Wait. Suddenly, I realized an alarming fact. Today was in June, and in my past life, my grandma had passed away suddenly from high blood pressure on the 27th of this month. A wave of unprecedented hope and excitement surged through me. It was like grabbing onto a lifeline of destiny. I could still save my grandma. I rushed home to the farm as fast as I could, my heart filled with a mix of urgency and unease. When I saw her working hard in the field from a distance, an inexplicable wave of sadness overwhelmed me. I almost staggered toward her, fell to my knees in the mud, and couldn't squeeze out a single word, as if something had gripped my throat. Grandma looked up in surprise, her kind eyes full of wonder. "Mark, why are you back so suddenly? Did something happen out there?" Her voice was filled with warmth and concern. "If you didn't do well on your exams, don't worry about it. You can always come back here, and Grandma will take care of you." I shook my head, tears welling up in my eyes, and asked while choked up, "Grandma, would you blame me if I didn't do well?" Grandma smiled, a smile as warm as the sun in early spring. "Silly child, Grandma just wants you to be happy. That's more important than anything." At that moment, I couldn't hold back anymore. The tears flowed like a flood as I hugged my grandma tightly, repeatedly saying, "I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm so sorry." Grandma gently patted my back, softly reassuring me. "Grandma's here." After I calmed down a bit, I insisted on taking my grandma to the hospital for a full checkup. Even though she kept refusing, she eventually gave in. While we were waiting for the test results at the hospital, my grandma suddenly clutched her chest and said she couldn't breathe, and her legs started to go numb. My hands were shaking, and I frantically shouted at the nurse's station, "Is there a doctor? Somebody please get a doctor! Help my grandma!" My grandma was quickly rushed into an operating room. I stood outside by myself, a bundle of nerves, feeling like the whole world had come to a standstill. It wasn't until the doctor came out and told me that my grandma was out of danger that my anxious heart finally settled down. Tears rolled down my face again, but this time they were tears of gratitude. I had never been more thankful for all those years of studying hard. It had allowed me to save my grandma at a critical moment. It had saved the only family I had left. When Grandma's neighbors found out that I had gotten into Columbia University, they insisted on throwing a celebration party for me at the farm. I was busy helping inside and outside with my elderly grandma, a wave of immense happiness washing over me. Guests kept coming, and people were praising me for being so accomplished, and Grandma's face was lit up with joy. At the party, I announced that I was taking my grandma with me to New York. Grandma didn't want to go, but I told her the school had given me a lot of scholarships, so we could definitely afford to live there, and we could always be together. Suddenly, a little kid came bouncing over with a gift in his hand. He innocently said, "A sister asked me to give this to you." I smiled and patted his head gently. "You keep it. I don't need it." The kid's eyes sparkled with admiration. "Thanks. I want to get into the best university just like you." "You will. You definitely can," I assured him. I didn't pay any more attention to the person who should have disappeared from my life long ago. During my time at Columbia, I was fully immersed in my academic research. My advisor highly praised my efforts and accomplishments. With his dedicated guidance, I successfully published 3 research papers. As for Chloe, I never once ran into her during my 4 years on campus. Later, I bumped into a high school classmate who told me she had retaken a year of school, but had done worse on the exam. She ended up going abroad with Ryan, who had returned home from his disciplinary action. Their lives overseas became more and more reckless. Ryan embraced his true nature, but ended up stabbing Chloe on the day he caught her cheating on him. She barely survived. Ryan was eventually detained for drug use and his underlying mental health issues, while Chloe was completely abandoned by her father and was left struggling to survive abroad all on her own. Meanwhile, I continued my graduate studies at Columbia, reaching new heights in my own life.